Alright, so in this 5-part series you're going to learn all 7 3-note per string shapes using the major scale. And why do you want to learn this, you might ask? Well, number 1, you're going to learn the fretboard. Number 2, 3-note per string is the basis for most modern rock and metal guitar playing. Number 3, if you know all these shapes in the major scale, you also know all the shapes for all the related modes. So that means that if you know the major scale shapes in 3-note per string and can connect that, you also know the same shapes in Lydian, Dorian, Aeolian, Mixolydian, and so on. The only difference will be where you're placing the root in each shape. For now, just learn it from the point of view of the major scale. Just know that all the work you put in here right now is really going to pay off in the future. And number 4, finally, it's very easy to change one note to get the harmonic minor shapes and also get the melodic minor shapes. So the better you know these, you have a really strong foundation to build upon. Alright, I'm going to demonstrate this in the key of A major, but as you will see, the key doesn't really matter, because when you know the scale shape properly, you can play it in any key. And that's the entire point here. So the first shape, I just call this shape number 1, and this is not an official name for it. It's just that from the major scale perspective, this is starting on the root note, so that will be the 1. So when I talk about numbers here, I'm talking about functional intervals. Basically, the major scale is the ruler of music. And I'm not talking about a king, I'm talking about like a ruler for measuring things. So if you know that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again, then it makes more sense to you if someone would say, oh yeah, play a major scale but flat the 3rd, right? And you can go, okay, 1, 2, flat 3 instead of the normal 3, and so on. So knowing these functional intervals will enable you to understand scale diagrams and arpeggio diagrams and all these basically menus of scales and arpeggio, so you can look at that and understand what it means. So if you see something that says play 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, then you would know how to find that just by knowing the major scale basically. So you can go 1, flat 3, then you have 4, 5, flat 5, and then you have 7 and a flat 7. So we're not going to delve into that stuff right now, but just know that these numbers are really important. And once you know these, you also know how to change them and make these scales into something else. So you're not just learning shapes here, you're actually learning quite a big piece of the basics of music theory as well. If you have any questions regarding this, if something is not clear, just please post them below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But don't make it any harder than it is, because it's really easy. If you can count to 7, which I think most of you can, you will get this, no problem. Alright, so here's shape number 1, and I put the shape up so you can see it on your screen while I play through it. And as you can see, we start on the 5th fret since we're in the key of A here, and why certain notes are green is just easier for you to see where the roots are, and obviously you need to know where the root is. Root is 1 as well. So if you know where all the 1s are, that's basically the note that's going to tell you what key you're in. And since the 1s now are on the note A, this is on A major scale. And all the other notes, all the other numbers are in relation to that 1. So in this example, you have the 2nd note on the note B, and that's only when you're in the key of A, right? Where the note B is the 2nd note. But the relationship that you learn here, that you have the 5th fret and then a whole step up, you have the 2nd note, that's always going to be the case in any key you play this in. So with that said, I'm just going to play through the shape, and you have the shape on the screen, so I don't need to call out numbers for you. So I'm just going to play it up and down. The way that we're going to practice this is to start from each root note, each 1 or each green note, and do that in a few different ways. We're going to start with the lowest note here, and then we're going to play up the whole shape and then come back to root note. I call this root to root practicing. So we're going to start here, go up all the way, back all the way. Now I've completed that first one. Then I find the next root, So if you're unsure, just look at the diagram or count up from the note you're at. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Told you only need to be able to count to 7. So from this note, start on this note, and then you go up, all the way, and then back. And now you might think, well, we're done, but we're not, because we missed a lot of notes in the shape, right? So now we have to go back and catch the notes down below here. So, and then go back up again. So we're always going to start on a root, and depending on the direction we play from that root, we're going to have to catch notes on either side. So there's going to be a few exceptions to this, and that's basically when the root is the very top note or very low note, as in this one. And I'm going to play the second one then. So that's going up, the whole shape, down, and then I go past that note and back up to it again. So hopefully this is clear. And when you do this, you don't want to stop like I do it now. You just want to keep going at a very slow pace where everything is perfect and you're relaxed, right? So we want to build accuracy here as well. So this is really good for your alternate picking overall. So now we've done that. Now we're gonna keep going to the next shape. So it's this note. And I'm starting all these with a downstroke because the picking is going to get turned around anyway. So you don't need to worry about starting with an upstroke or anything like that. Just start with a downstroke for each of them and you will get the benefit from all these variations. So now we're going to go up to the next root. And if you feel lost, just count up from the first note, or just simply look at your scale diagram and look for the green note. So that's the 1. But I really want you to pay attention to these notes. So we can go up from here. Not very far though, but now we go back. Now we need to go back all the way down and all the way up again. So now we've done the ascending part of these because we've covered all starting points. And no shape is going to have more than 3 roots. So this is going to be the most labor-intensive shapes where you have actually 3 starting points. Now, you might think that you're done, but we're not. We're gonna do the same thing now, but do the descending version. Just means that instead of going up, we're gonna go down if we can from each note. And this note, yes, we can, because we have notes below it, right? So we start here, all the way down, and then up, and then we need to catch the notes on top. So whatever note you're starting on, you want to catch all the notes. So that's important, so you don't miss anything. So now we're done with this one descending. Now we go back to this one and we try the descending version. So instead of going up like we did in the ascending, we're gonna go down. Then need to catch all the notes. Right? And now we go back here, and this one we can't descend because we need at least 1 note below it to be able to do that. And since we're going to keep it within the actual shape, we don't have anything here. So this means that we're done with this shape for now. Now, when you practice this, to really get this into your system and get used to playing this all over the neck, I highly suggest that you do the following. Start at the very first fret, so in this case F, and then play the same shape and do the exact same exercise. I'm just going to demonstrate it here now so you can see. I'm going to play through the entire thing. So starting on the lowest available root. Starting on the next available root, ascending. Starting on the next available root, ascending. Now, done with all the ascending ones, descending. Next one. And now we're done. Move up to the next fret, so F sharp. And so on. And you do that all the way up the fretboard. And I would suggest that you do that at least once. And if it takes a long time, that's fine. So you don't need to do the whole fretboard in one sitting. In fact, if you just notate where you left off the day, let's say you do this today, and then you go as far as you do the first fret, second, third, fourth fret, okay, then you're done, and you can start on the fifth fret tomorrow. Because what we're really trying to learn here is to see the shape for what it is and be able to find the roots in each of these shapes and be able to see them as an entire unit. It's almost like seeing it as like a barcode that you can move around, so you're not stuck in one key. So I want you to do that all the way up the fretboard for each of these shapes that I'm going to show you in the following videos as well. Alright, so here's shape 2, and as you can see on the screen, we're going to keep it in A major, just so you can see how they all relate in the same key. But we're going to do the same thing to this shape. Once you know it, we're going to move it around the fretboard. So, as you can see, we start on the second scale degree. That's why we have a 2 as the lowest note. And now your job is to find the lowest root here. So we're going to go from 2, go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1. So our lowest available root in this shape is actually on the D string. So we're gonna go up from that one as before, do the ascending first. Now find the next available root. It'll be the 10th fret of the B string. Now we go up from there. And now we don't have any more roots here, so we're gonna turn around and do the descending version from the same one. And then we'll go back to the first one and do the descending version. So that's the basic idea, and now you do the same thing we did with the first shape. You start at the lowest available position. It's going to be here, first fret. It's going to be an E flat in this case. And then you just go up, ascending root to root first. Next one. Descending. And descending from this note. Then you move that up the fretboard just like the other one, as we talked about before. Just a quick word about the fingerings here. I suggest that you use the index finger as the lowest note on each string, and you use the pinky as the highest note of each string. So whatever you do in between, that's up to you. So if you have 2 whole steps, for example, you might like to do 1, 2, 4, or 1, 3, 4. That's fine either way, but try to be consistent with whatever you choose. When you have a half step and a whole step, well, 1, 2, 4 is the most logical one, and then when you have a whole step and a half step, you have 1, 3, 4. So when you practice, try to keep to those fingerings, but when you actually play, you can do whatever you want, but I think it's a good habit to incorporate all 4 fingers when you practice. You don't end up not using the pinky, for example. And as far as the fingerings, when you start on different notes of the scale or when you start on different roots, use the actual finger that you would use when you're just playing the shape up and down. So for example, when I play the root from the first shape, the second root, I start on the second finger because that's the fingering I will be using. And the same thing when I go up here, I start on the pinky. So just wanted to mention that because I know when I show this to my private students, these questions tend to come up. Right, so once you've done the root to root in shape 1 and 2 all over the fretboard, you can start connecting them. And it's going to be the same procedure, it's just that we're going to go between shape 1 and shape 2 in the same key. So I'm going to show this again in the key of A, and by now you should have a pretty good understanding of the shapes already. So if you haven't done the work please go back and do that, because this will only work if you put in the work, all right? So we're gonna do the same thing, just gonna connect two shapes. So the exercise will go like this. We start on the lowest available root, which will be the lowest available note in this first shape. Then we just play the shape and connect it with the second shape. And the connection is gonna be here on the high E string. But I'm just gonna play it and you'll see what's going on. Start on the next root. Start on the next one. Right, now we've exhausted all the roots in this position. So we'll go up to the next position. So that will be this root, and we're gonna descend here as well. So we'll always go the whole lap around both shapes, if that makes sense. And then we find the next root here. And then you're done with that exercise. But again, you want to do that starting down here, the lowest available position. So it's going to be F here. So I'm just going to start here. Connected. Next. Next. Descending. And when I say descending, I mean that I'm starting from the second shape. So last note. Start in the next key, F sharp. And so on. And you do that thing all over the neck again. And the reason why you want to do this all over the neck is so you can really make sure that you can see these shapes for what they are. Exactly like I said before, with like almost a barcode type feel, where you know exactly what the shape looks like, and you can also move it around. So that's really important. And also it's much better for your technique to do it this way. All right, so this was lesson number 1. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, just post them below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Just make sure you go through all the steps that I outlined here before we go on to the next video. If you're watching this from the future, you can actually click on the next lesson here in each of the subsequent videos. So you don't need to go around searching. Anyway, good luck with this stuff and see you in the next lesson.